Good morning, everyone. We are back. The point of today's video is to talk about radar detectors. If you'll notice in the shot, you can see my radar detector just below the, at the very bottom of the screen. And what I really want to discuss is a little bit about this Uniden R7. That's the one I have. Kind of a pseudo review of that, but also really more just a review of radar detectors in general and kind of the general philosophy of why you would run one. You know, are they like moral, if you will, that kind of thing. So, first of all, let's just discuss exactly what a radar detector does for those who don't know. So, as it sounds, based on its name, right, it detects radar signals. Now, that's not all the same thing. So, there's different types of radar. It's just a different spectrum of radio waves, but we call them X-band, K-band, Ka-band. They have all different names. So typically, probably 8% of the time, police are using Ka-band radar. Or they're using laser, which is not radio waves at all, it's actually light. So if they're trying to catch you for speeding, they're using Ka-band radar, or they're using actual light from a laser. So we'll go over the laser after, but for just the radar's perspective, back in the day, like the 70s, let's say, the only thing that existed was X-band. So if you had a radar detector back then, it was an X-band radar detector. It would catch those bands, and you were good. Then as time went on, they created K-band, which was just, I think it just has a shorter wavelength, so it could go farther. And then when they created K-band, you had to obviously get a detector that could detect that, and then also Ka-band, which is kind of what everybody uses now for the most part. Again, I would say 98% of police are running Ka-band. So, in the perfect world, a police officer has their Ka-band radar on full blast, full intensity, sitting kind of on the side of the highway, trying to, catch you for speeding. If that's the case, then you will literally, with a radar detector like this, pick them up from miles away. It is very, very easy for it to pick that up. You have a ton of time to prepare for it. You slow down, you're good to go. It gets a lot trickier than that, though, because a lot of modern cars have K-band radar on them for backup sensors and the active cruise controls and stuff like that, right? The self-driving features. A lot of cars like Hondas and Toyotas especially. And then, so that's one thing that will confuse you, because you're going to get a ton of K-band just coming up all the time, and you have to kind of learn how to notice if it's a true K-band or K-band, or if it's like a fake K-band, if it's just some other car. So for example, this is more than likely a stray car K-band where it just kind of came up real quick, 20 seconds, low intensity, and went away. The way you can tell typically is the intensity of it, how fast it comes on. You just kind of get to a point where you instinctively know. So as you can see, the intensity is climbing. Put the phone back on the mount here. So it's kind of coming from the sides and in front of me a little bit. It just dropped, so it's kind of hard to say. Now, he's actually parked in that gas station over there. Look to your right, to the right of the mobile. That's where he's parked. And right now I'm passing him, I'm about next to him. But he doesn't have the radar fully on because the intensity is still pretty low. But now he's behind me. So he probably has the radar on like 30%. Now this just flicked forward and it beeped like that, which tells me there's an officer ahead of me now, so it's a new signal. So it actually can identify that, which is nice. And if you look, probably coming in the oncoming lane, you're going to see an officer relatively soon. Where is he? That's getting thrown right there. Right? Turn lane. Right now. Boom. So as you can see, you get a pretty good idea of where the police are, but it's kind of hard to describe exactly the difference. But when you do all that, and you have a K-band signal, they can trick you, because it could be a cop, and if they kind of do their radar right, they can almost hide behind the fact that you're so used to hearing K-band. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse game when it comes to that. But I've noticed that I've been able to identify K-band pretty successfully, in my adventures, in my travels. So either K or Ka-band, police can also vary the intensity, kind of like I alluded to earlier. So if they're running a real low intensity, or they have it shut off, and they're hiding well enough, they can then say to themselves, okay, wow, I see a red Camaro that just visually looks like you might be going a little bit fast. I'm gonna slap the radar on quick and try to get him. So I had this happen to me. I came past a tree line, and there was a cop, and I was going 70 to 55, which sounds really bad, but this road, honestly, everybody speeds on, right, wrong, or different. Anyway, so I was cooking a little bit, and I actually saw the cop before he turned the radar on, hit my brakes a little bit, and then he blasted me with the radar. And I was evidently going slow enough that he didn't care to pull out on me. But that was an example where, like, he was targeting people as they came by to see, you know, how fast they were going. He wasn't just leaving the radar on. So even though I had a detector, it didn't really do me any good in that scenario. Except for the fact that it does help in that I knew exactly when he turned that radar on and what speed he would have got me at. So if he did pull me over, I at least knew in the back of my head, okay, if I was going, say, 80, I braked down to 70 before he turned his radar on. He's got me at 70 or less. Like, it can give you just some data to have in the back of your head, you know, for when the cop pulls you over, the side of the road conversation, or especially just in court. You know, you don't really want to argue with the cop on the side of the road ever. But it just gives you a little bit of knowledge of, like, it gives you a little window into what he might have on you, on his end. It's not a perfect tool, but it gives you an idea. Another thing to consider is there are states where it is illegal to run a radar detector, like Virginia, and I'm sure a bunch of countries, Europe and stuff. So what do you do in that case? Well, you have a decision to make. One, you just don't run a radar detector, right? I mean, that's the most obvious thing. But if you want to run a radar detector, there are options. So this one, and the Uniden R7 and other brands, have a radar detector blocker. So in Virginia, for example, I don't know how much the police actually run them, but they have a device that can detect your radar detector. Say that 5 times fast. And that device will allow you to get pulled over for having a radar detector, theoretically, and they could confiscate it from you. That's written in the law. Right or wrong, that's the way it is. So if you don't want your radar detector taken, you gotta either take it off the window and put it in your console and turn it off, or have the right radar detector. Now, the real question everybody has is it really going to save me from a speeding ticket? Is it really going to, you know, save me money and time and stress of going to court and all that stuff? The answer to that, as you probably expect, is a big fat maybe. So the reason I say that is because it's hard to say. If I'm going, this is the way I look at it. This is a 55 mile an hour road. The car in front of me is literally going 70 or high 60s, right? As we all know, everybody speeds all the time, basically. So you can probably go 65 in most 55 mile an hour zones in most states and never get pulled over once, never have an issue. That's just kind of common knowledge. About 10 over, and they don't seem to bother. Police never seem to bother anybody. Obviously, if you're 10 over and a 35, it might be different, you know, that kind of thing. So this road's a perfect example. It's a 55 mile an hour road. I'm going 75, and I'm barely passing cars. It's just the going rate for this road that it's a very quick, you know, the speed limit is underrated for the road, at least compared to what most people do. We can argue that point. That's not really the point. The point is, can I avoid the ticket with this device? And I would say, generally speaking, at fast but reasonable speeds, yes. If I'm in a 55 zone and I'm going like 70 or 75, most of the time you're going to avoid a ticket because visually, if a cop doesn't have his radar on, he's not going to really see that you're going much more than 55. But if he does have the radar on, you know about it and can slow down just to be on the safe side and not pass a cop going 75 and a 55. But it gets weird if you're going like 90 in a 55, then you visually look like you're going fast. And if an officer doesn't have his radar on, then he could just get you for a visual speed infraction or flick the radar on quick and catch you that way. And then you're kind of a sitting duck. So unfortunately, if you're going too fast, like way too fast, you're kind of still gonna have issues with a radar detector regardless. Like it's just not a be-all end-all tool. You can't just go 120, always expect to see the radar hit, slow down, and then be fine. Like, you're gonna pass police here and there without it on, or low intensity. give you another scenario where it's very helpful. I was on a backcountry state route with nobody on the road. There was a car like way in front of me. So I was like, I'm gonna do a little high-speed run, you know? So I got the car up to about 120, nothing too crazy. And I backed off. And as I backed off, I realized, holy crap, that car way in front of me is actually a cop. So I'm still further than the car you can barely see on your screen from this cop car, but I'm cooking pretty good, you know? So I slam on the brakes and get down to like, you know, 90, 80, 70, 60. And then I'm behind this cop, and I'm like, shoot, you know, I don't know if he really was paying attention, but I obviously came up in his rear view very quickly, but I knew he didn't have his radar on because my radar detector wasn't going on. So I sat behind him for a while, and I just kept a good distance, and I took a turn when I could, and he never flicked his lights on or anything, because even though I was speeding egregiously, it was like dusk, it was nighttime. You know, unless he was staring in his rear view, he's not going to see me come up that fast on him. So, you know, I mean, you have some level of leeway there. Now, if he was staring in his rear view, I would have been screwed. He easily could have pulled me over, and I realized that. But that's just the risk you take by speeding. Don't speed if you don't want to take that risk, right? I don't recommend it. But just knowing he didn't have radar on, even though it would have been nice if he had it on and I would have not sped, it was just nice knowing that, okay, even if I do get pulled over, it's going to be a visual thing. He's going to have to prove that, like, I really was going fast. I was behind him. It was nighttime. And just keep your mouth shut on the side of the road and go fight it in court, and you might not get a 120 and a 55 speed. You might just get like a 20, 30 over, which is a heck of a lot better. So, you know, you just got to, like, think about kind of, it gives you data and it gives you evidence for yourself. Overall, I really like having it. Even if you don't speed, it's just nice to know kind of where the police are, and nice to know, you know, what the potential hazards are around you as far as, you know, legally speaking. And not for nothing, but if a cop pulled somebody else over for speeding and they're on the side of the road and you hear you know, they left their radar on, which they do a lot, and it's like, it just alerts you that there's an officer ahead, and just to look out for them, and then try to get in the left-hand lane if they're pulled over on the right-hand side of the road. So it actually can be a tool to make an officer's life safer, even though you're trying to use it a little bit to, you know, avoid getting caught. You know, it actually works both ways. So there's a legitimate argument to be made there too, that it kind of is like a little beaconing tool they can leave on, and, you know, gives you a chance to get out of their way. So anyways, guys, with that being said, as always, thanks for watching. God bless America, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. Let's go around this turn and have some fun.